Oh man, things just got real interesting. Listen, before the UFC 315 press conference, Ilia Topuria was on a show to where he basically leaked, look, I'm fighting Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira next at International Fight Week. And then a reporter asked Dana White the question, and Dana White basically confirmed. He's like, yeah, that basically sounds about right. So we basically have confirmation that Ilia Topuria will be fighting at International Fight Week, and it will all lie on what happens in the main event at UFC 315. UFC 315 just went from a lackluster card that has a good main event and a couple fights here and there, like we got the return of Aldo and all these different things, to now having massive stakes on the main event that are going to determine whether we get what I think is the biggest fight at present in the UFC between Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. Dude, this is craziness. Have we ever had something like this in the UFC to where it's like the possibility of a mega fight is lying all on what happens this weekend at UFC 315? It's like watching playoff football. Like it really is. It's like we're all sitting there with like bated breath. We're all going to have our eyes locked in at UFC 315 on the main event. And if you weren't intrigued to see Belal versus JDM, I mean, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, because it's a super interesting matchup stylistically. But now, I mean, everyone's going to be tuning into this. There's going to be so many people backing Belal Muhammad now because so many people want the Topuria versus Islam Makhachev matchup. Or there's going to be people that are rooting for JDM heavy because they want to see Ilia versus Charles Oliveira, and they want to see Islam Makhachev move up to fight and win the welterweight title. The stakes have they ever been higher, like on a fight that doesn't have to deal necessarily with the fighters that are fighting? This is absolutely crazy. Like, of course it means a lot for, Belal, because if he wins, he can continue to defend his title and, go on his run here in the welterweight division and as a champion, right? Because he's, done so many amazing things, has a crazy resume. But I mean, how nuts is this? It's like we're all going to be sitting there and it's like, yeah, we're going to be intrigued to see how the fight plays out. But depending on who wins is going to determine whether we get the biggest fight in the sport or not. Have we ever had anything like this, man? I mean, like, let me know. Like, this is crazy. I am so hyped for UFC 315. I already was excited for the main event, right? I mean, the card was kind of meh. But now with all that's riding on this is massive. This is absolutely massive. And either way, Ilia Topuria has got a super badass fight on his hands. He's either going to be fighting Islam Makhachev, which obviously that is, in my opinion, the biggest fight in the sport. That's the one that a lot of us want. But if, JDM were to win, which I don't think he's going to win, I think Belal gets it done, then Islam would move up, and then we would get Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria for a vacant or interim title, I would assume, obviously. And that is a badass fight as well. So either way, Topuria is fighting at International Fight Week, and it is going to be a badass fight regardless. I'm good with either of them. However, the juicy one, the mega one, come on, man, that's Islam versus Ilia Topuria. And I don't want to hear, listen, everyone's out there talking about he doesn't deserve it or earn it. And I've been saying, put all of that aside. If you eliminate that and you just focus on the styles and what would be a massive fight in the UFC right now, we basically have two fights. We have Jones versus Aspinall, and we have Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Not many times do we get a possible mega fight at our fingertips that's right there, and it's like all coming down to what happens at UFC 315. This is absolutely crazy, man. I am absolutely stoked for UFC 315 now, considering all that is riding on this. And the press conference had a few moments, right? Because we're going to get to that in a second, but this is really the big news. And Ilia Topuria kind of pulled a little bit of a baller move here. He's like, maybe they'll talk about it at the press conference. I'm about to just drop this news, man. But on my channel, if you've been watching, a while ago when he was on the PBD podcast, a lot of clips were going around on social media, people, showing what Ilia said, but they were missing the fact that Ilia said when they were like, oh, well, would you fight Arman, as a number one contender? Ilia was like, they're not going to ask me that. And then Pat was like, kind of like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, I'm preparing for two people, Islam Makhachev or Charles Oliveira, to vacate the title at 145. And to move up to the lightweight division while not having your title, while not getting those pay-per-view points because you're the champion with the title, Clearly, there was something big and juicy that the UFC, big and juicy, behind the scenes that they were telling Ilia Topuria. But I'm cheesing, man. Like, I'm so excited, dude. Because either way, no matter what happens, of course I want the Topuria versus Islam fight because it's massive. Come on, man. Like, whether you're like, oh, he needs to fight a number one contender, we have a massive fight on our hands, dude. A massive fight. Like, it's huge. The buildup would be crazy. You know Topuria is going to talk a big game. You know Islam's going to drop the one-liners. You're too little, brother. I'm going to smash you. You know, like, it would, come on, man. Like, it's huge. And then either way, whether we get that fight or not, the options are crazy. The options are crazy. Like, as fight fans, this is a complete win-win at UFC 315. A complete win. And it almost makes me kind of forget about kind of how shitty the card is. Because we're all going to be sitting there literally like the playoffs. For sports, you're sitting there, you're like, this is the wild card game. This is the big deal, man. We got to wait and see what happens. Oh, this is the result. This is what we're going to be getting. I mean, how crazy is this, dude? When has this happened? I'm trying to remember, as a fight fan for all these years, when has something like this happened? To where we're sitting there like, if this, like of course, it's like, okay, if this goes, this guy's going to get the title shot. If this happens, but to have a scenario of this magnitude involving, two divisions, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is the type of energy that we need back in the UFC. Okay, so all of that aside, super exciting news because the fight fans win regardless. Of course, we're going to be upset, if we don't get the Islam versus Ilia fight because that's like a generational type of fight, in my opinion. And if it, for Islam to go out there and get a win over Topuria, I think that would possibly be the best win and age to be one of, if not the best win on his resume, considering he'd be the first person to take Ilia's O. Ilia's coming off of back-to-back KO victories over Volkanovski and Max Holloway. First person to KO Max. Like, the magnitude of this is crazy. It would be a massive win for Islam. And then if Topuria somehow went out there and pulled it off, he'd be the biggest star in the sport. Without question, so much would be riding on that. But either way, as fight fans, we win regardless. Topuria versus, Islam or Oliveira, amazing. And then to have Islam move up and fight JDM, that would be super intriguing as well. So again, I don't think that happens because I think that Bilal will beat JDM. But again, you never know. Anything can happen in the fight game. Super craziness going on for 315. But the press conference, man, listen. Dana White doesn't even want to be at these press conferences anymore. Am I the only person that feels that way? Like, let me know, man. But like, he doesn't want to be there. He like comes out there and he's like, he's got his little power slap. Who's got the first question? Oh, what's up, Canada? We got the first question. And like, we're in and out of there so fast. I mean, if I sat down, and went to go pee or something, I'm going to come back and the press conference is over. I mean, these press conferences aren't even press conferences anymore. They're little pop-ups. I mean, Dana White, what's he got going on? He's in such a hurry to get in and out of there. And you see him in the back. He's like, hurry up, get the tables out of here. He's like, hurry up, get this shit going, man. Like, I got somewhere to be. We're in Canada, man. He's like, I got a trip. I got to hit the gym. Like, I don't know what Dana's got going on. But he is in such a hurry. He's checked out. And this is what we were talking about already. Dana White's checked out, man. He's checked out. He can't wait to get the hell out of there. And why? You're literally the promoter, the CEO of the UFC. You know how many people would want that position? Like, Dana's get him out of there, man. Get him out of there. He's an OG. He's done amazing things, but it's so clear. Look at the press conferences. They're shorter than ever. He doesn't even let the good things pop off to help build the fight. Like, we had Bilal, with a little bit of trash talk. We had JDM with a little bit of trash talk. And then it's like, oh, it's over. And then they go up there for a face-off and, JDM puts his hand out. Bilal smacks it away. And it's like, those are the moments. And then Dana steps in and he's like, like, come on, man. Like, the UFC's got to get back to its roots. They got to get back to its roots. And it got saved because of the distraction of, depending on the result of the main event is going to determine so many things. But come on, man. Like, Dana, these press conferences, they're shit. They're shit. It's very rare that we have a good press conference anymore. Very rare. But we're all on a high because of what could potentially be happening, following the result of the main event at 315. But then we had, JDM up there is like, I don't think that's Ian's kid. And I don't think that he meant it in the way that a lot of people are kind of taking it. I think that he was just like, maybe that's some just random dude he's sending over here. Or he was taking a dig at him because of the whole, cuckery stuff with Ian Gary, but oh my God. The press conference was nuts, man. It was short. It was not very good. And then all of that kind of happened. And, it's like all this stuff going on with the main event. And then JDM with the little line there. And then he's like, listen, Bilal's not breaking me. Bilal is vowing to put on basically a masterclass performance. Super stoked for the main event. Super stoked to see kind of how this all plays out because there are some massive fights on the horizon. It's an exciting time here for the UFC, and this is the kind of energy we need, man.